Hey guys, welcome to my Animal Adventures YouTube channel, and in this episode I want to convince you to lift the ban on the spider ball python, and that's what I have around my neck right here. This is a female spider, a really beautiful ball python morph, just a single gene animal, and believe it or not, over in the UK they've banned the sale of these animals at reptile shows. As a matter of fact, you can't even bring them into the show and display them in your case, in your display case at the tables at the show, which is pretty amazing. You know, out of the total, the 300 plus genes of ball python, all the different morphs and all the different combos, I would have think they would have banned something else. There's some other ones that are actually worse than the spider. I was actually shocked that they banned the spider above some of the other morphs. And really, I think it comes down to really controlling it in a different way. I don't think we should actually take a strict ban on the spider ball python. As a matter of fact, I did a video about the ban on the spider ball python, I'd say about a month ago, and I was kind of just taking it all in. It really shocked me that it was the first time I actually heard about the spider ban, and I put it out there and I had so many comments, hundreds and hundreds of comments on that video, and I was going through all the comments and just liking them all, because you know, I was basically just saying that, you know, I acknowledge your comment, the positives and the negatives. Some people were really for the ban, some people were really against the ban, and I was just kind of stepped back and took it all in and looked at all the comments and looked at both sides of the argument. And really, what we really should do, instead of taking a hard, strict ban on the spider ball python, I think we should go down the road of education instead of a ban. So for example, here's one kind of scenario I was thinking about. I was like, all right, you know, how do we make sure that if someone buys a spider, they know really what's going on? And I think instead of a strict ban, here's another option. How about if you sell a spider ball python at one of the reptile shows, maybe you have some kind of a sheet, you know, a piece of paper that says, you know, this is a spider ball python, it has potential neurological issues with the head wobble or the stargazing, and kind of explain the whole thing. Then if you breed it, you have a probability of the offspring actually having the head wobble. And I think, you know, something like that would be more advantageous. I know, like here in the United States, here in Colorado, I've attended quite a few reptile shows, selling my snakes at the shows, and they're really increasing a lot of the education at the shows. And what they've done lately is they have actually required that you have a sheet of paper displayed at your booth that talks about salmonella and the possibility of getting sick from handling reptiles, and you know, using hand sanitizer and all the things on the sheet. You know, the education I think is really key. I don't think we should really start going down the road of banning animals, especially when you're talking about, you know, spider or neurological or you know, slight I would say the slight defects, I guess you would call it a defect in some of the genes. Now, some of the other snakes, I can see maybe putting, you know, restrictions on them, especially with really large snakes. As a matter of fact, I have a reticulated python that's 60 pounds. She's about 14 or 15 feet long. She's a really big snake, and I'm trying to breed her this year, and she's part dwarf. I'm trying to pair her up with my super dwarf male. And you talk about reticulated pythons, if they weren't dwarf or super dwarf, some of these snakes can get, you know, 200, 300 plus pounds. I've seen, I think the world record for reticulated python is 350 pounds. And really, personally, I would like to see not specifically a ban on reticulated pythons, but I would like to see some kind of an information packet when you're buying these reticulated pythons, you know, the potential size and the appetite and the cost for housing and on and on and on, the cost for food. They can eat a lot of food. They require a really big and oftentimes a really expensive housing, how fast they grow. A lot of these things, I think we should really educate the public, especially around here. I've seen a lot of the reptile shows selling full mainland blood reticulated pythons without people really even knowing what they're getting into. And you know, for a few $100, you can pick up this cute little snake, and before you know it, it turns into a monster. And I think instead of really banning or going down that road, I think we should take the approach of educating the public about, you know, the different aspects, especially when you're talking about neurological defects or a snake that gets really large, or, you know, some snakes, maybe they're, you know, specifically maybe a little bit more aggressive than others, or they require, you know, different requirements than other snakes. There's, you know, there's certain species where I would like to see, you know, you sell that snake, you're required to hand out an information packet on that snake instead of, you know, an all-out ban. So that's kind of my stance on the spider ball python. I think we should kind of rethink the whole thing. I think we should lift the ban. I think we should put some other requirements in place, that you should actually have paperwork at the shows, you know, and give an information packet every time someone purchases a spider ball python. So that's my insight on the spider. I think right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Lucy and I'm going to feed her another rat. We're trying to beef her up. We're going through the breeding season for reticulated pythons. Speaking of banned snakes, it's actually, you know, in some states, some localities here in Colorado, they ban the reticulated python because it's really big, and it's really in the city. I think, you know, I think it all comes down with reticulated pythons. A lot of the bans go back to lawsuits where, you know, a snake actually got out and injured somebody, or, you know, there was some event that triggered the regulation, versus, you know, the spider ball python. I don't think there's really, you know, like a main event like we had with the reticulated pythons, or like the Burmese pythons being released in Florida and becoming an issue in the wild population. So anyways, I'm going to go and feed Lucy a rat, and I want to show you how I feed her. And she's pretty much at the end of her feeding binge. I think I'll feed her one more rat. This is like 5 or 6 rats that she's had in the last week. And then what I'm going to do probably tomorrow is I'm going to take my male, I'm going to pair him up with Lucy, and then hopefully we'll see a little snake action going on. And then hopefully in like a month or two, we'll get a nice big clutch of eggs of super dwarf reticulated pythons. The super dwarf is key. I'm really for kind of scaling down reticulated pythons. You know, my super dwarf, he's about 30 pounds. So you're talking about the max size of maybe 30 to 35 pounds versus, you know, a really big monster snake that can get, you know, hundreds of pounds. And one of the big thing about reticulated pythons is that, you know, I'm finding as I work with Lucy, she's about 60 pounds, and it's almost too much for me to handle 60 pounds by myself. I almost need a spotter or someone helping me out on a snake that big. And the problem is you know, I'm pretty much a solo guy. I'm pretty much, you know, doing this on my own. I don't really have the help all the time. I have some help sometimes, but not all the time. And, you know, in the cases of handling some of these big snakes, I think it's really essential to have at least one spotter. And if you have a really big snake, I would highly recommend having at least 2 or 3 people, you know, helping you work with some of these big snakes. So let's go and take a look at Lucy and feed her a rat and go from there. All right, guys, so this is Lucy, and you can tell she is definitely ready for another rat. She is standing at attention, and if you look at her body condition, she is really getting pretty plump from the rats that I've given her over the last few days. So I'm going to give her one more rat, and then we're going to pair up tomorrow with Sunny, and hopefully they'll actually breed this year. I paired them up last year, and I didn't get any eggs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock this enclosure and throw a rat in there. And this is always exhilarating. I'll try not to get bit. So far, I've never been bit by this girl, and hopefully I never will get bit from her. She is kind of crazy. So here goes nothing. Pretty simple. That one wasn't quite as wild as she gets sometimes. Sometimes she gets really crazy over those rats. This one was a pretty mellow strike. Sometimes she just goes ballistic and starts hitting the top and the sides and going crazy. All right, guys, so that was Lucy taking a rat. And you know, if you've been watching my videos, I always like to throw in some snake action at the end of my videos. And there's a lot of kids that have been watching my videos and they say, hey, we don't want to hear you talk. We want to see some snake action. We want to see Lucy eating a rat. So that's what I like to throw in at the end of my videos. As a matter of fact, I was playing around with one clip just yesterday, kind of playing around with one of the most aggressive feedings that I fed Lucy here just in the last week. And if you slow that video down, you can see she really got really close to my hand. It was pretty exhilarating, I would say. So I'm going to play that next. What I actually did is I took just the feeding clip when she grabbed that rat and she was going ballistic, and I played at normal speed, and then I'll play at half speed, and then I'll play at about 1/10 of the speed so you can see just how crazy she is. So I'm going to play that little clip next. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.